Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Mel Heyworth. I'm an autism researcher. I'm the mum to three fabulous autistic children who I homeschool, and I'm the CEO and founder of Reframing Autism, which is an autistic-led charity. It was an absolute privilege to work with a fabulous team in the past sort of 13-ish months on a fabulous project, collaborative project with Positive Partnerships on autistic parents' experiences of partnerships with their autistic children's schools. It's a project that was particularly close to my heart because as an autistic parent of autistic children whose partnerships with schools have not always been rosy, it was a really important opportunity to understand how autistic parents experienced their collaboration, their communication, their connection with their children's school. And I'm going to hand over to my colleague Stacey, who will talk more about the project.
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Stacey Rabba. I'm a research fellow on this project with Macquarie University, and I've been part of the project there for just over a year, like Mel introduced then. I'm also a senior psychologist by training and very passionate about family wellbeing in the autism community. So without further ado, I'll introduce a little bit more about our project and just about what we were hoping to uncover. So this was a joint collaboration with Positive Partnerships. We really were interested in finding out what leads to successful and effective partnerships between schools and caregivers. We know that these partnerships can have a really positive impact on children and young people's experiences of school and their outcomes. However, we really don't quite understand just yet how autistic parents experience interactions with schools and teachers and what results out of those interactions and how it affects their daily life. So to really improve our knowledge and gain a better understanding, we wanted to ask autistic parents themselves and speak to students and teachers to get some further knowledge around what is it that makes things work and what is it that doesn't help as well. Mel, would you like to give a bit further of an introduction around how we engaged in this research?
Well, on a day that's all about when, it's not going to be surprising to anyone watching this video that the whole project was underpinned by those really deep values around co-production. The research team itself was a really hearty mix of both autistic and non-autistic researchers. So Liz Pellicano, Stacey, Jodie, Rose, Palomi were all non-autistic researchers. But Wenn and I and Gabby, who probably will also be here today or you'll see her today, were all autistic researchers on the project. And we were involved together from the very beginning, from the inception of the project, its research questions, how we would work together. And it was a really collaborative effort, as you would expect in best practice co-production. But the co-production didn't stop with having just autistic researchers on the team. We had a really robust community involvement as well. So we were able to bring in an autistic parents advisory groups. There were 4 autistic mothers who were also teachers by training, which was just a very lucky coincidence. And they supported Stacey in the project from really the very early stages all the way through. So from everything from trying to develop an interview schedule that was respectful of autistic neurological differences, communication differences, and the trauma, as well as some of the positive things that parents would have experienced. So to try and get the nuance of all of our experiences. So our Autistic Parents Advisory Group went all the way from that very early stage right through to see the project through and to its recommendations. So it was lovely to have that robust oversight by people outside of the research team as well as people inside of the research team. And it's lovely to have, we had many autistic participants, clearly, given that it was a project about autistic parents, it was not surprising that we had autistic participants, but those were both self-identified as well as formally identified. So we didn't sort of fall into the trap of trying to make, of assuming that everyone has the privilege of diagnosis. But also what was really exciting and such a blessing for this project is that we also had the access to young people's voices and little people's voices. So we also talked to autistic children and got them to talk about their own educational experiences. So often in projects, our little people are silenced and their experiences are reported through their parents. So it was really important to us that we access their experiences through their own voices. And the way that that was done was just so gorgeous, around, you know, getting them to draw or voice their what they wanted in an ideal school situation. And it led to some very exciting and creative discussions. Stacey, do you want to talk a bit more about some of the things that came out of the study?
Absolutely. So with the study, we did look at what the key themes came out, what parents were telling us, and what that narrative was about their experiences and interactions with schools and teachers, and what led to the positive interactions and also those negative interactions. And we saw a real array of experience, quite a big variety. Our key themes were 4 key themes. So the number 1 was looking at successful partnerships and what they're built on, and that successful school partnerships really are built on mutual respect. So that was a huge standout. And we had some families who thankfully had some positive experiences and drew on what led to those positive experiences. And a lot of them were very simple, basic things, such as being able to be open to learning and to understanding autism and having flexibility, but also showing humility. Also, schools that showed that mutual respect and developed that mutual respect with families valued parents' experiential expertise. So the autistic parents' insight was really valued and really looked at in terms of how do we build and develop the skills in the school setting, and how do we help, like Mel said, our little people to experience a positive journey at school. Another thing that came out of that was around safety and security, and that was a real key theme, feeling connected in school. Theme 2 was looking at the feelings that parents had themselves. So one really strong quote that came out of that was one parent saying, "I'm sick of being the problem." So often feeling like they were victimised in this school setting, whether it was by leadership or by the school as a whole or individual teachers. And that led to a real normative sort of view of education and sort of a narrow view, where a lot of parents use this phrase of round pegs don't fit in square holes. And I think that really speaks to so many families' experiences, as well as feeling like the enemy and not feeling like they're listened to. So there were some real traumatic experiences from families that really did then lead to different paths with education. But it was important for us to capture those challenges and understand what led to those outcomes as well. The third theme there was looking at how much this experience felt like a battle. So the phrase that was spoken by one particular parent was, "It feels like you're constantly in a war zone." And again, this real impact that it has on the whole family. So mental health and the experiences of the whole family were really captured in our interviews, and it was really important for us to understand how incredibly stressful it can be trying to advocate for the child, which so many parents were trying to do, and some successfully and others not so successfully. So that was really something that we could see could be very overwhelming for families, but was also something that provided strength and opportunities, which leads us to our final theme, highlighting the critical role of self-advocacy. And this is from the parents' perspective. Even through failures, we found a way to succeed. So knowing that although advocacy shouldn't be something that they necessarily always have to do, we did see from Autistic Parents Experiences that it was always a must in these situations, and that parents' confidence really grows over time. So in the initial stages, when the children were in the early years, it was a lot tougher for some families, but as they became engaged in the education system, learnt more about the intricate details, the confidence in being able to advocate for their child's rights and being able to advocate for their own voice as a parent and as a family really developed. So the other final part, which I think was really important to highlight, was parents sharing that there's nothing wrong with being autistic, and just advocating for diversity and celebrating diversity, and how a school system and a school setting that celebrates those strengths provides a much better connected community and also a space for belonging for the children and the family. Mel, did you want to add some more to that?
I was just going to ask you, in fact, to say that there were some important recommendations that came, as I said, that our autistic advisory group and the team, the research team more broadly, sort of were pushing for some strong recommendations that come out of this research because of those occasionally highly traumatic experiences. And those negative experiences, as well as the positive ones, gave us a really good picture of what could be and the things that are going wrong and what we could do better. Did you just want to talk about those final few recommendations that the big picture items that came out of the project?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the standout ones was looking at the experiential expertise that autistic parents bring to the table, and having educators in schools ask autistic parents to share their insight, so that there's a value in that expertise, so that at the same time there's a continuous learning from both ends, from the parents' perspective, but also from the school's perspective. And I think when those walls are brought down and that sense of humility and that sense of kindness and compassion comes out, there's so much potential. And it's an untapped resource that, really to date, it seems unbelievable that we haven't been doing that more consistently. So that also leads to closer, more beneficial relationships there, which is really at the heart of our project. So developing those positive partnerships essentially. And autistic parents, like they said in our interviews, have a little bit more insight than the average mother might with an autistic kid. And this knowledge needs to be harnessed, not forgotten. I think that was a real standout one. I think the other key recommendations were around promoting flexibility in a school setting. So some of the most positive experiences that parents shared were ones where the school did promote flexibility, where if they knew that a child was going to potentially not have such a great day, they cut the day short, they called in the parent, they communicated these concerns. Or when there was not such a great day, the parent was called in and insight from the parent was drawn around what could be done differently in future. So just that flexibility is another really important one. And creating that sense of belonging and that community feel in a school where autism is acknowledged, understood, and in the best circumstances here, we would hope celebrated as well.
So I hope you can see what a role, it's a perfect project for Wenn. It's about empowering not just autistic children in schools, but also autistic parents in the school relationship. It's about celebrating our autistic identity and the experiential expertise that we bring to these partnerships. And as always, as with any project that Wenn is part of, it wouldn't have been the same without him. So just a shout out and a thank you to Wenn for all of his amazing contributions to what is a really important significant project in this particular space where autistic parents are just so infrequently given voice, and here they were given that opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. Echo those sentiments, Mel. Wenn was at the heart of our research panel, providing so much incredible insight, and really those values around co-production and co-design have been something that really started this project from the very beginning and have led us all the way to the recommendations, where we're drawing on all that experiential knowledge within our team and our community group as well. So congratulations, Wenn, on your achievements so far. Thank you for being part of our team and our involvement with this project, and best wishes.